Tonight's the night. It all begins tonight. Welcome to Bury Your Bookie. I'm Jeff DeForrest, and very excited. Mike Jones joining me here on the program as we have the Fiesta Bowl coming up, which kicks off a phenomenal week and weekend and end to the week of both college and professional football. First round of the wild card round, so to speak. Always among my favorites. Now expanded, where you have 6 games, 2 Saturday, 3 Sunday, one on Monday night. And the semifinals in the college football playoff also expanded that include the upstart Hurricanes 20-1. And that was to win it all before the playoffs got underway. And Ole Miss, a team that was supposed to be in utter chaos with Lane Kiffin's departure, that seems to be performing at a very, very high level at this point. So interesting game tonight. We'll get into that with Mike. But I have a protocol, kind of an ethical gambling question, I guess you could call it. To start out, we have a mutual friend, who has a nickel on the Hurricanes at 20-1. He got down on that before the playoffs started. He's a believer. He's a bit of a fan, but he's also a pretty astute gambler and not inclined to just throw his money away. Takes a shot with the Hurricanes at 20-1. So he's got 500 to win 10,000 if they win tonight, and then subsequently beat either Oregon or Indiana in what would be tantamount to a home game at Hard Rock Stadium here in South Florida. To hedge or not to hedge? That's what Shakespeare was talking about. Not to be or not to be. This is to hedge or not to hedge. At this point, if you had 500 up, would you consider hedging to at least not lose money on the proposition, but also compromising, at least to some extent, your $10,000 haul if they win it all? What would you do, Mike Jones?
In my position, I feel very comfortable with Miami winning this game. But because I believe in the idea of better to walk with something than nothing, I would have a dime on Mississippi plus 3.5. That's what I would have made the
There
bet.
you go. Okay.
I would have made the bet earlier, taking Mississippi plus 3.5. You can win both bets. You got a plain middle there. You're not taking the money line, which is getting back 145, 150. That price doesn't really intrigue me. But plus 3.5 would do that for me to sit there. If you believe like I believe Miami would win, maybe there's a better bet at 7-0, at 14-0 that you take a hedge bet and make another bet on top of it that happens. But you also put the risk on what happens if Mississippi gets out to a lead and you end up with nothing. So my bet would be I'd take a dime at 3.5, and then I'm 1,600 out, and I see what I want to do and walk away with $3 or $4 grand. At that point, to put a big bet on the favor. Because the problem I see with this, and I hate to say it, I think Oregon and Indiana will be favorites over Miami. I don't know if you'd see that.
Yes. Indiana, I think, certainly would be.
Oregon might be a pick 'em or one. I think if Oregon beats Indiana, they would probably – you got to think of what they've accomplished, so that might make them a 1.5, 2-point favorite.
Their thorough domination in their quarterfinal game, what was not reflected, and I believe the final was 23-0. But they really were impressive in that game. They failed to cash a couple of easy ops in the so-called red zone, but I don't rule out the possibility of them being the team that emerges and faces the winner of this Ole Miss Miami game. So yeah, you hedge off a dime, then you'd have to hedge off 2 dimes if you lost it. But I like your theory here. You're getting the 3.5. You have a chance to win on both ends. So you could pick up an extra 1,000, and then at that point, certainly you would be inclined to hedge that off.
Yeah.
In the final,
I mean, you're down 1,600, so you take 3 dimes on the game in the next game, and you walk away with 5,000, or
I wouldn't want to lose.
1,500. That's what that's
right.
Kind of what the bet is. You're guaranteed a winning bet, and that's it. If you believe, if you believe in Miami, there's guys out there that 500 doesn't matter to them. If you believe in Miami,
you've already.
It's a great bet to start. I thought about it, Jeff. That's a great bet to start. We talked about it. We thought Miami could make a run here. They did once they got past Texas A&M. I thought they had a real shot at Ohio State. So you just these things are the dogs are I hear stats that there was a stat that came out that a large underdog of more than 7 in the first round of the home playoffs. A home underdog is 5-0 and they win outright. That's remarkable.
Yeah.
So this is where things I find in this particular weekend. Look at the pressure on the team that has to win, the pressure on the team that should win, social media, all that. That's where the pressure lies. So is Mississippi playing with a fun deck of cards? Yeah, absolutely. Whatever happens, Mississippi looks great. If Miami blows a game, if the Cristobal factor kicks in, Miami goes right back, no matter what they've accomplished, 2 wins in a playoff, getting there, goes right back to start one. That Crystal Ball's not the guy. We should have won, all that stuff. So clearly the pressure's off Mississippi and on Miami. I just feel right now, I go back to Crystal Ball's using that word violence. And if that's the word that I've never heard used in football before by a coach, numerous times in the post-game interview after Ohio State, I figure that this Miami team is ready and has a chip on their shoulder representing the ACC, what they could possibly do. I like Miami, and I love the fact. Normally I don't, but I actually love the fact the line came down to 3. I really do. I think I really like Miami even more that the public and some sharp are pulling that number down to a key number. So I'm going to take my chances and still lay Miami -3.
All right, you're laying the points with Miami in this ball game. I'm looking at a few things. I mean, the one thing that could upset all of that logic is Trinidad Chambliss.
Yes.
Some of the stuff that he's been doing, especially deep behind the line of scrimmage. You do have an intense pass rush. Miami's defense statistically stacks up as being more than legit, 4th in the country in points per game allowed, least number of points per game allowed, and only giving up 285 yards per ball game. So they really have been consistently good all year. Cristobal factor reared its ugly head a couple of times, losing to Louisville and losing to SMU, but the team has actually been sharper. Not the least of which of the reasons why being Carson Beck, 1 pick in the last 6 games.
Right.
So we'll see if he's pressured. He is highly suspect, I believe.
Right.
And I was early in the season, as I've been talking about throughout the year. I was unimpressed when I saw him live against the University of Florida, a horrible team at the time.
Right.
And sure enough, I mean, Miami was missing opportunity after opportunity. They did get some spectacular catches in that Notre Dame game to get off to a good start. So very capable, probably playing better ball right now than they have at any time in the season.
Yeah.
I would say that's a fair statement. And yet Chambliss would be the X factor in this game because if he can escape the pressure and do the things that he was doing in his last outing against Georgia, that may be the one way that Ole Miss has to come out on top in this ball game, and forcing Miami to play a little bit of catch up would put them in an awkward spot as well, and expose them possibly for not having the firepower and offense that we're accustomed to seeing with these teams. How heavily do you believe in the jinx of the Fiesta Bowl, Mike Jones? 0-4 in the Fiesta Bowl. The 14-10 loss to Penn State, still a shocker with Vinny Testaverde.
Remember that well?
We didn't tell after the game that he's colorblind. These guys are wearing white uniforms. It's like they're on a green screen on TV, and he can't figure out who's who. Pete Giftopoulos makes an interception at the end of the game.
Yep.
Hurricanes about to salvage the dignity of winning the national championship. And the next thing you know, this slug linebacker that runs like a 6'4" 40 ends up making a catch there, although he was highly touted. They had lost previously in '85 to UCLA. They got beat. I was at this one where they got drubbed by Arizona 29-0 in '94. And then, of course, the classic with the Terry Porter flag coming in about a half hour after they were already drowning the AD in Gatorade. Paul D was the AD. He's already soaking wet. They're running off the field, and there's a flag. Where'd that come from?
Crazy.
And
Watch that highlight throughout the week last week, and there still is absolutely no contact by Buchanan. It blows me away that how that was.
There's a guy standing right there with a good angle.
He's got a perfect angle on it, and
he doesn't go to play.
Yeah, it's just it's inexplicable.
That was crazy. So 0-4 in Fiesta Bowls. Historically, overall, they have a downside record of 21-25 in bowl games. Now they've won a couple in a row this year under Cristobal against, you would have to say, weighty opposition, very significant opponents. Do you believe in a jinx? Do you believe in a jinx?
I'm going to go away and say it's been a while since they've been there and played this game. I don't think you think like that. I got a lot of people that are going out to the game just very fired up for this, thinking this is the revitalizing Miami program. Good for college football. You bring Miami in. Good for parity. ACC pulls out a win and gets to the final. They should, when everybody thought they shouldn't even have a team in. Very good for the game that Miami stepped up at these spots. And I just look at this way. Chambliss will cause problems. I don't think he's played against a Miami front like this. You could say the SEC, what they play with, they're tough. But I think Miami's got a couple number 1 draft picks on both sides of the line. This is a very serious game. And again, when Chambliss is answering questions on getting a 6th year, answering where his offensive coordinator is all week, and these are the questions that he's fielding, This is the kind of a distraction that you really don't want. Yeah, they got by with a very familiar foe in Georgia. Seemed like Kirby Smart was doing things, not thinking his deep, had comfortable confidence in his defense, and he could have stopped Chambliss. Two fake punts. I've never seen a coach even go for two fake punts. He did it in the game. A lot of weird cases happening there in that game. They're down, what, 9 at halftime or 11 at one point, down 12 in the game and make a comeback. And, did Georgia get complacent thinking they were going to just do the typical Georgia thing and steamroll? Just don't see that happening. And here's the key component to this. And here's your combination, same game parlay.
All right.
You take Miami -3 and you take Mark Fletcher over rushing yards because, in my opinion, what they're going to have to do is run the football successfully to keep Trinidad Chambliss off the field. And I think if Miami can get 35 minutes of possession, limit the amount of possessions that Mississippi has, Chambliss might have to force some things. And let's not underestimate what Scott has meant coming back in this game in these two playoff games. He gets the big pick six. He had 2 sacks against Texas A&M. He is a bona fide star corner that could lock down one side of the field and offer a different look that Mississippi's not accustomed to seeing. I just like Miami. I just like Miami in this spot. I like Miami more than I like the second game. Second game, I think could go either way tomorrow night. But I just think this is a time. I just like lines of scrimmage play, and you have a veteran player in Beck who's 15-3 against ranked opponents, clear cut guy who's playing a lot better, knows he's on the line, has played Mississippi before, can recognize SEC competition inside the Miami locker room, can be a leader in this spot. If he plays well and they have a balance out throw and pass, Tony's still one of the probably might be the best receiver on the field. Miami's got the tools here. I really think it could be 7-10. And what happens when Mississippi can come back and whatever. But if they start getting beat up on the line of scrimmage, which I think could happen here, I think Miami wins.
I like that I'm talking jinxes and you're coming out with facts and figures. Very impressive on your part, Mike Jones. All right. The other game a lot of people feel is a toss-up. I did notice a panel of handicappers in my New York Post. Of the 7 that were selecting, they had 6 out of 7 took Ole Miss with the points at 3 and a hook. So there's a variety of opinions.
It's SEC, ACC, Jeff. I mean, people don't think Miami's had the bad losses this year. Mississippi hasn't.
Yes.
Mississippi played a better competitive schedule. Absolutely. I just think, when does this factor of the distraction of the coaching staff going to LSU, the Kiffin factor, Pete Golding has done a fantastic job. Mississippi has handled this situation brilliantly. They got their head coach in there. He's now 2-0 in bowl games. No one can complain about Pete Golding not taking the job moving forward. He's done a fantastic job. Lou Saban's a defensive coordinator at one point. Guy's been around big games. Love the hire. Think it was a fantastic move on their part. But my thought is, this is a physical game at the line of scrimmage, an SEC type style team that they're playing in Miami the way they're built. And I'm going to say that what I've seen in them bashing Ohio State, I didn't think that would happen the way they physically outmanned Ohio State. I thought it could, but I didn't know if it would happen the way it did. I just think that they're not going to be afraid, where it's big, bad SEC has been down. They lose today, they go 3 straight years without a champion. And I'm thinking that maybe the tough schedule, and now going up to 9 games in the SEC, these guys might bang each other around, even though they'll get 4 or 5 teams consistently in the playoff. Can they hold up and win? Are they going to be as strong moving forward? So I get it. 6 out of 7 makes me feel even better. Let me be on the minority with a favorite. I got the favorite that everybody likes, the underdog. And I can tell you this, what that tells me, this is why that line dropped from 3.5 to 3. Because people want to grab that underdog and think the SEC is an underdog, is their thought process. And they keep thinking this Miami team doesn't do what we've seen it do. We watch them. They have been tough at the line of scrimmage since they got their chance to get in this place. And I don't think they underestimate the getting Scott back, who's been the best defensive player on the field, in my opinion, even counting up Bain and their pass rush. That's just
violence. You're advocating violence. All right. We have the wild card round coming up in the National Football League, and Saturday 2 games. Blowout predicted here. Rams 10 and a hook over the Panthers. Panthers didn't seem like they belonged. Don't have tremendous faith in Bryce Young to come through. While they showed signs of life at different times this year, they were equally disappointing in subsequent games where just when you thought, well, maybe this kid's got it together, all of a sudden that they would go out there and throw in a brick. Many people feel the Rams will just toy with them. In fact, the favorite for most passing yards. I don't know, Mr. Props, if you want to get into any of
Yeah.
these. I was looking at some odds here. Most passing yards in the wild card round. Matthew Stafford is the favorite, figuring that he's going to go out there and destroy the Carolina defense. Drake May, you're getting 6-1 on Drake May, 4-1 on Matthew Stafford. You're getting 6-1 on C.J. Stroud, 8-1 on Trevor Lawrence. Josh Allen's plus 850, as is Brock Purdy. And then it tails off from there. It seems like there's a bunch of guys at 11-1 plus that probably have no realistic chance of doing that. So what do you think? I mean, about the game?
Well, yeah, I
And
mean, the problem I have with Stafford is what if they get out to a 21-0 lead and they start pounding Corum and Williams?
yeah,
Something happens. They get that big turnover. The defense turns it over. They get some points there. I don't like a big favorite there to win that kind of bet. I like a team I would almost like Bryce Young more than I like anything else. If they're down 28-0 at halftime, you're going to see Bryce Young put the ball in his hands, and then is it get moving on to next week and giving up those late yards and a late drive down
yeah,
15?
70-1, Mike. 70
Yeah,
to
I mean, it sounds crazy. They got good receivers there. Coker and McMillan are good. Leggett. It's just one of those things where I just don't know if I like the big favorite to do that. It looks obvious. I see the point with Stafford. If they can't stop the pass hit, they get Devontae Adams back. Here's my thought on that game. 10.5 is a big number to lay on the road in the NFL. No one I talked to liked Carolina in that first game, and Carolina ends up winning that game. So you got the revenge factor going in there for the Rams and all, and the focus on what they had, the bad loss 2 weeks ago with Seattle. So the Rams should be ready to go and focus. But stats tell you a plus 10.5 as a taker in a home underdog factor is a 5-0 winner, plus 7 or more with these low seeds that have less than 10 wins that get these home games. They seem to hang in there and play well. So it's a tough game to bet. I don't want to take it. I would lay 10 if I could. I'm not as fond of that game as I am other games on the board, but that'll be the first one, so I'm sure there'll be something to watch in it.
All right, who do you really like? What's your strongest player?
I mean, I didn't like the line when it first came out at 3.5 with Houston and Pittsburgh, but I've been touting the Texans as my team to come out of the AFC. Yeah, I'm just not sure. The veteran game, Aaron Rodgers, Monday night, does he get the balls? They get Metcalf back. I don't love the matchup at all, but I just think if they can control the line of scrimmage, I think it's a low-scoring game, which you hate to lay 3.5 in a game that you expect to be between 30 and 35 points in it. At 17-14, you lose at 3 and a hook, kind of thing. I just like Houston a game. But probably the game that I like the most, I would say is I'm going on a limb here with Jacksonville. I think that the 9-in-a-row factor, not slowing down, Josh Allen, probably the time that the pressure's on him more. He's got to do it from the road to get there. He's the favorite. Everybody talks about him being the best quarterback still left in that's in the playoffs. Just watching him miss that throw that was so obvious in the Philly game just makes me think: is he all there? Does he feel the pressure? Do they not have players? Jacksonville's defense is a lot better than people have given it credit for. They get the home game. Lawrence is playing well. Liam Cohen has him right. Buffalo's a small favorite. People would think normally Buffalo should be 3.5. I like the fact that I can get Jacksonville, maybe even a tease it up past 7. I just think Jacksonville's going to win this game. That's just how I feel. I just don't. Buffalo can't stop the run. If they control the ball and not get pressure on Lawrence, I think they should be able to do what they want. And then it all comes down to how Buffalo handles offensively. And if they get up 14, how does Josh Allen take that? So that's the one spot I like. I kind of think this in Saturday night in the Green Bay game. Green Bay is going to get a little healthier, play their players. They rested some people. Chicago put out some players, played that game against Detroit to win. The big factor to me is the Joe Thuney factor. I love the fact that this guy should be the MVP of the league. He leaves Kansas City. They completely lose out. They win 6 games. He goes to Chicago, and they win a division. These are the things that should be said when you talk about what's most valuable. They signed this offensive lineman. Well, to me, the most impressive part of the Bears has not been Williams. It's been their offensive line, how they've played, been able to run the ball, giving him more balance, taking some pressure off him. But I like the fact that Williams still succumbs to a little bit of pressure in these moments. Throwing a pick in the 49er game, throwing a pick earlier in the Green Bay game. When it all comes down to it, is he going to be ready? And I just think nobody's giving the Packers a shot to go any further. I know they lost Micah Parsons, What is the line there? It's a pick 'em. It's not where everybody thinks the Bears should. I've listened to people think Bears should be favored. It's a reason why that game's a pick 'em. And let's look at the two matchups. Packers got off to a start. Typical Bears late fashion. They come back and take a lead, get back and pressure for a lead. Look at the second game. 3% chance to win at a certain time of the game. They get the onside kick. It sends it in. They get it to overtime. They win the game. You just look at that weirdness that happened there. The Packers should have beaten them twice. I would probably like Chicago if the Packers had won twice. I just think the Packers have to have a little chip on their shoulder after what happened last time in Chicago. Chicago's new to this. The Packers have been there before. I like Green Bay in this spot.
Very nice. The Jacksonville thing, I guess if you're only watching fragments of a season, you don't necessarily get the full picture because I know they've rebounded and played a couple of really strong games since this time. But I still remember, and I don't know if you were in attendance at this particular session, where the Jaguars were up like 30 points or so it seemed against, I believe it was the Cincinnati Bengals.
Mm-hmm.
And the Bengals were without Joe Burrow at the time and had little reason to give people the belief that they were going to bounce back, and they ended up winning the game. Somehow the Jaguars lost that, and I haven't lost the horrifying picture of that second half because I had the Jaguars that day, and it was so disgusting that you would have vowed never to lay another nickel on this team again. Now since then, they've looked great.
Week 2, Jeff. That's week 2. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, so, I mean, if you only see portions, pieces of a dream, it somehow is a little difficult to piece together a valid theory. I'm with you, though. The Bills are suspect, and
Yeah.
I think that may create what would it be, like the 8th coaching opening if
Ooh.
Black Monday is going to extend into another week.
Yeah.
I think, and you might see some first-round losers. I was surprised to see Harbaugh get canned. But, I mean, and think about how fragile the position is because there was speculation Tomlin would get canned, and this guy misses a kick. And that's the differential from one guy staying and the other guy going. But McDermott has to be on somewhat of a – if he's not on the hot seat per se, if he's not strapped in old Sparky, he's at least got a little hot plate that's burning a fire under his ass.
Let me say this to you, too. This is something that's very interesting because I went on Instagram immediately when John Harbaugh was fired and said, this is the guy for the New York Giants. And then, of course, people start picking it up. And a lot of people on X that I follow who have good forums about this.
He's going to be
we're all on top of it saying, this is our guy. We had Kevin Stefanski in there for the Giants last night, having dinners, meeting with going through the offices today.
Oh, yeah.
More meetings. Harbaugh's scheduled sometime next week. He's not taking anything. And here's what I think of this. So Harbaugh's not taking any meetings, lineup anything until after this weekend. Does he look at Buffalo if something happens? If Green Bay go down, does he look at Green Bay? Is he now getting interest from teams that think if they lose, they'll get rid of their coach, and now he can walk right into a playoff situation? And here's where the Harbaugh factor becomes very interesting and doing a little research behind this. History is Super Bowls. Do you know how many coaches have won Super Bowls with two different teams?
I'm going to say it's got to be a low number since you asked the question. I'm going to say 0.
Bingo. You got it, 100%. There's been numerous coaches, Bill Parcells, Dick Vermeil, Don Shula did it, who have appeared with two different teams. Sean Payton has an opportunity this year at home field to do it, to become the first one to do it. But if that doesn't happen, I think that's an intrigue to me as a head coach in my 60s to say, I could be the first guy and walk in to win a Super Bowl with two different clubs. So now after doing that research, just my mindset thinking that he won't take a meeting. I wonder if that's where he might want a better situation, a playoff tested guy, the right quarterback. So to your point, you just said it. If Jacksonville gets this win, does the Buffalo job open up? And is that where John Harbaugh runs off to Buffalo because of that opening and thinking that he's got that nucleus there and they just need a little bit of an edge or some different look in there with veteran leadership and good players to rally. Their offensive line is solid. They got a quarterback, So I just think that to me is where I think the Harbaugh factor could probably take it. This is where this is good. I just look at Buffalo as an underachieving team this year. You had to lay after week 3, 7 or 8-1 on Buffalo to win that division, and they don't. Think about that. Think about that lay at 8-1 at week 3. New England's 1-2. Everybody's 1-2, and Buffalo was 3-0 after the win at Baltimore. And these are the weird things that everybody's saying, oh, Buffalo's going to be the front runner. They're the best team in the AFC. I mean, we went through this. Green Bay's going to win the Super Bowl. Like every week, it's something else. It's the best part of the NFL, what happens. And you take it all in. I got emotional at 2-10 that the Giants were the greatest 2-10 team in history of a football, and then you see them lose bad games, you get rid of the coaches and start playing poorly, and it's like, no, they're not. And so this is the whole thing that happened. We jump at this, the best reality TV in the NFL, and we say this. So to me, I just like that's why I like Jacksonville, and that's why I think Green Bay. I mean, LaFleur's job is another one that people think he could go to.
Yeah.
So there's always reports, and again, you don't know again if they're just stimulated by someone trying to get clicks. But when you
Well,
start,
we have, the notion that's being put forth, I guess, by the agent for Harbaugh, that
Mhm.
supposedly like 9 teams have
Yeah,
contacted him, but there aren't that many openings. So that means somebody, has
yeah,
put in a call and said, "Hey, if McDermott blows this one like he has in the past, he's
sure,
got
yeah,
that would be a good spot." New York Giants. A lot of people feel like that's where he's going to end up. He's kind of favored to be the
yeah, and
next.
and you have the New York media saying on FAN about the Giants aren't even a coveted job, they're a joke, all this stuff, and they're worse than the Jets. And I'm thinking this team has won a playoff game 3 years ago. You could say whatever you want about it, but you're just sitting there in a market that you just want to rile people up. And I've always wondered if that's not the idea. Don't think that the Giants are still the third most expensive franchise in all of sports, worth over $10 billion, if this isn't a right market to go. And if you believe in what they're doing there, and the fact they kept Joe Shane, I'm sure that's going to be a big part of what someone's going to have to go understand is that this guy has made some different personnel changes. If you have a chance to help him out as a veteran coach, I just don't think a Chris Shula or a Clint Kubiak is going to have that ability to go in there and help a GM who's been there 4 years. You've never been a head coach before, but a
Well,
John Harbaugh is a different
the
story.
guy that's proven that he can take a franchise. And look, people didn't think Lamar Jackson was going to be any kind of
Yeah,
NFL quarterback. So he
right.
managed to have success there, and yeah, consistent winner.
Mm-hmm.
Clearly knows what he's doing. He's got a handle on things. He knows how to deal and operate as a guy that's supposed to be the definitive authority there. You're not having a bunch of different voices coming through or questions all the time about whether or not the guy can coach. I guess every coach has suspect decision making when it doesn't work out, but by and large, you would have to think that this
Mm-hmm.
guy's an asset to any franchise, as opposed to taking a shot. I'm always for new blood. I'm a big advocate of that.
Mm-hmm.
Because you get the same old tried and true guys, but and that haven't had the success that Harbaugh has. But in this case, sustained success with that organization over the years, got to think is a very attractive quality if you're on some kind of head coaching search. All right, so you're going with the Hurricanes tonight,
Yep.
and then toss up City.
Yeah. Well, here's my thought on this game. Oregon's got the revenge factor after losing at home to Indiana.
Yeah,
Indiana's probably the most physical team, but if you look at the talent on paper, you have to favor Oregon in this spot. So I was all over Indiana, just amazed at how they dismantled Alabama. Line shops from 4 to 3.5, hasn't hit that coveted 3, so that tells you it's a small money move on Oregon. Might be West Coast money coming in there, Vegas, or doing something and moving that line a little bit. I don't think that's a move of something, but remember this: the sharp notoriously will take the dog in this spot. They just won't lay the wood. They just feel comfortable in this spot with the underdog. So I think you get a combination. And once that public gets on the underdog with a little sharp money, same thing happened in Miami, you'll see this line come down. Here's my thought. We got the Mendoza Moore factor, the revenge factor for Oregon. Oregon did not embarrass themselves against. They were a little disappointing offensively, but Texas Tech has got a legit defense. I just was so overly impressed with what I saw out of Indiana. I just think that this is really an unbelievable story. And I think if ESPN has a brain, they bring Lee Corso in his Indiana sweater to the podium to make the pick on the last game and let him ride his university. I thought as soon as Lee Corso had his last show, picked Ohio State, I said, watch out for Indiana this year. Something about that and the storyline and all that to show they did. And sure enough, here's Indiana playing for it all. Yeah, I just, it's a tough spot. My heart would say because of doubt, take the dog, but I really got to see it first with Indiana to see me lose because I think they're playing that well, and I really trust the coach. I don't think he's going to get out coached. I think his team is better, and I just saw some highlights this morning about the last game they played last year 2 years ago against Penn State when Dan Orlovsky was at the game saying Indiana didn't belong on the field with Penn State. They lost like by 40 or 50, and the kids couldn't tackle. And you're seeing this. This is the exact opposite team in just 2 years. I think it's an unbelievable story. It's probably the best turnaround in history of college football. I want to see a little bit more of it. My hope is Miami, Indiana in the championship game. I don't have a big play. I'm not strong on it, but I'm going to lay the points just to watch it and have action on it.
All right. So you're hedging off a little bit with Miami if you're in the spot that our mutual friend is in. Playing both. You would like to go ahead and play.
I'm playing both favorites, which is weird. I just don't like it, but I'm happy that I'm getting a better price.
It's scary. It's
Yep.
maybe more frightening than the two-word grouping I do. Because it seems like whenever you say that, it ends up being a very perilous situation. All right, Michael, you have fun. Enjoy the game tonight. We'll talk again Monday. Thanks so much for being with us. And everybody out there, great football weekend on tap. A lot of other things going on around the world of sport. And so there's more than enough to venture into in terms of any kind of wagering activity.
Super Bowl prediction, I'll end it Philadelphia, Houston.
Philadelphia and Houston. That's
it.
All right.
All
right. We'll see you next time. For Mike Jones, I'm Jeff DeForrest. We'll see you next time on the next edition of Bury Your Bookie.